So, the time has finally come for me to break down the final ending for My Hero Academia Season 7 Core 2. So it's been a while since I did the breakdown to the second opening for Season 7, so now I'm here to at least finish this part of it by breaking down the second OP of Season 7. And there's a lot of interesting things that you may have missed from the breakdown, so let's just dive right into it and really talk about the ending itself. And to start off, the new, relative to this video, ending theme is titled 6 Magnitude Star or Rokutōsei, as performed by Zarame, who was a founding member of Yaabane and a former founding member of Hullabaloo. And this seems to be their first solo song when it comes to performing an ending for an anime, so that's very cool to see. But along with that, we also have storyboard and direction by Nobukage Kimura, who storyboarded for episodes of Kaguya-sama Love is War, Fully Coolly Alternative, as well as Beelzebub. But then also the animation was directed by Hitomi Odashima, who is also involved in pretty much every season of My Hero Academia except for season 1 when it comes to animation, as well as he was the chief animation director and directed episodes of Blue Exorcist. And with that little tidbit of information out the way, let's dive more into the actual ending proper. And the ending starts off with an image of Deku in the water as ripples form around his face, as we then proceed to see him completely falling and submerging in the water that turns into sort of rainbow colors, as well as we see bubbles transitioning us into a new scene. And when it comes to these bubbles, this may tie into the first opening of season 7, as the opening ends with bubbles, as this ending begins with one, showing how the beginning and end of this season is all connected. And I want to bring up the imagery of Deku falling into the water and how Deku standing in the water, as well as many characters that we're later going to see in the opening, could be a representation of many things. It could be a representation of the emotional state of mind for the characters and how the ripples could be indication that Deku's mind is shifting and he does not know exactly what's going on. It could also be a representation of change, flexibility, as well as rejuvenation, which may tie into what we've been seeing throughout the season of changes, the heroes trying to be flexible and then being rejuvenated, such as with All For One. And that the fact that he is also in the water could represent that he's feeling suspended, and that the feeling of being in the water could represent him being in limbo or unsure of where he stands within the situation that he's in right now, which could be him fighting in the war or his strive to try and save Tomoshigaraki. Or it could just be that he's going through emotional turmoil during this moment because once again, he's in a war as he's trying to save Tomoshigaraki. And this idea could apply to many of the other characters within the water itself, as some of the characters are having their eyes closed while others are having their eyes open, which may be the understanding of them seeing their situation more clearly, or that they may be blinded to what's actually going on. But with that, we do get to see other students who are also suspended in the water as well, especially from Class 1A, as we transition out to see each character. And that the characters transition from one another, from Bakugo to Ida to Shoto to Momo to Kaminari to Koda to Kirishima, Aoyama, Froppy, and Jiro, then Uraraka. And this set of students may be chosen due to what we've seen so far, with them playing major roles in the war so far, either directly or indirectly. But from this scene, we also get to see Deku right next to Tomura in sort of a yin-yang pose, indicating and representing the opposing sides, as we see the villains who will have prominent roles in the final war, going from Tomura to Dabi to Toga and Spinner. But from there, we get a scene of transitioning from 3 different kinds of flowers, which could potentially have different forms of symbolism with them. The first flower seems to be more of a red daisy, which in Japanese could represent beautiful, peaceful, and hopeful. Next, after that, we have an iris, from my understanding, which should represent courage and good news. And the rose, that is the final flower, could represent love and beauty, and how these flowers describe the opening and transitions into positivity as we see the characters move versus being static and having their eyes closed. So basically, the moment that these flowers begin and how they seem to be a little bit more positive is where we get to see more characters whose eyes are opened and being more active. And that activeness can be seen within the next scene of how we see the students who have or will play roles reaching out their hands, and how this is important as the hand is a very important motif in My Hero Academia about reaching out to help others in need. And that the hands that we see included in this montage, as seen with the heroes reaching their hand towards Deku during Dark Deku, or just the hands being placed on Tomura which are able to calm him down. And how the hands that we see in this moment in the transitions are Uraraka, Tokoyami, Ashiro, Bakugo, Tsuyu, Shoto, Hagekure, Shoji, and Deku in that order, which once again, all of these students either have or will play major roles in the war moving forward. But from here, we next get to see Tomura turn into swirls of light as we cut to the other heroes whose eyes are now open, reaching out their hands. And in this sequence, we get to see Mirio, Tabaki, and Nejire with bubbles still underwater. Then we get Aizawa, Yamada, and Kurogiri who still have their eyes closed, but we get a small instance of Shirokumo popping out from the darkness, followed by Midako, Edshot, and Best Jeanist, and how these are pro heroes who played major parts in fighting, who are also lending out and moving their hands because they played major roles in trying to help Bakugo with his revival, which is why they're reaching out their hands, because they actively played a role to help them. And that the reasoning why Kurogiri, Aizawa, and Yamada's eyes are currently closed is because they have yet to play a major role, or will be playing a major role later on, and that when they finally play that role is most likely when they will be represented with their eyes open. But from there, we get to see more of the bubbles rise up to the surface, and the symbolism of the bubbles could be the emotions that are being felt by the heroes, or just the idea of bubbles being represented of joyfulness, or just a representation of just the emotions that they're feeling right now, which is probably why they are raising up to the surface. But it's from here where we do get a nice collage of heroes and villains who have a connection in the final war, as we see Bakugo and Deku, for their obvious connection being rivals, as well as the history that they have with each other since they were kids. Hagekure and Aoyama foreshadowing the role that they will be playing together, which we may get revealed in this season. Spinner and Shoji with their conflict of changing the tide of the war, as well as the fact that they are both heteromorphs that were most likely discriminated against. Then you have Dabi and Shoto, both being Todorokis and having potential conflict coming up soon, but as well as just being connected as being the children of Endeavor who were born to try and surpass Endeavor, as well as All Might. As well as we get Kirishima as well as Ashido, which as of the recording of this video will be playing major roles in the upcoming battle, but especially their connection comes from the fact that they've known each other for years, as well as they appear at the same battleground with Gigantomachia, who they will eventually have beef with. Then we have Tokoyami and Jiro, who fought alongside each other against All For One, as well as Uraraka and Toga with their love for the same boy, but they also are foils for each other and are going to be playing a major role in the fight in the final war. Then you have Shinzo and Monoma, who are outcasts that have had major contributions to the plan, even having a chance of success, and ending off with Endeavor and Hawks, who have had a connection since Hood, as well as Endeavor being looked at highly by Hawks, but as well as they also played a role in the fight against All For One the first time. And from here, we do get to see that both Tomura and Deku are still falling, as we see them falling from darkness to the light, hinting that potentially Deku may get Tomura to see the light, or at the very least potentially get rid of his hatred. And as we are approaching the end of the ending itself, we see all of the members of Class A panning from right to left as if they are moving forward and transitioning into a seemingly naked person, potentially Toga, for a scene that she will get later on, if not in this season, within the next season, hinting at her tragic fate. As we get all of the League of Villain members that played a large role in the story looking at the white doves, which may be a representation of freedom, love, or peace, and how they may be able to achieve their end, whether or not for good or bad, as the ending ends with Deku falling to the ground, and that this could be a metaphor for him finally reaching the depths of Tomura and reaching the bottom of his soul. But yeah, this is my thoughts and breakdown for this ending of My Hero Academia, the final ending for season 7. And I highly doubt that there are going to be changes made to the ending as we've seen with the opening, but let me ask you this: how do you feel about the ending? Do you like the song? Do you like the visuals? Or is there any type of symbolism and metaphor that you got from the ending that I may have missed? Leave your thoughts down below, and don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel for more content like this. Do all that cool jazz, and hopefully I'll be able to catch you in my next video. Goodbye!